Okay, so for this project, I am using something I actually only found last night before recording this, and that is Component Studio. It is a piece of software that runs on your browser and it basically allows you to create data sets and card designs and things like that right there in your browser without too much hassle. Now, if this is a paid-for service, this, if you're in the UK, will cost you about £7 to £8, and if you're in a dollar-using area, it will cost you. I meant America. It will cost you $9.99 per month. Per month? Yes, per month. And it comes with all sorts of features that I will probably go over very soon. I understand that not everybody has access to money each month, so I will be doing a video on how to do this sort of thing in OpenOffice in their drawing function, which isn't the best way to do it. It's not the most efficient way to do it, but it is free, and we all love free things. You can also use things like InDesign or Photoshop and things like that if you have them. However, again, they cost money, and Photoshop and InDesign cost an arm and a leg per month, so 2 months and you're out of luck. So, what am I doing on Component Designer? Well, currently I'm picking some fonts. It's nice and simple. You just go through their list or upload your own. I would say pick 4 or 5 different fonts, but expect to only use 2 of them. And that is, in fact, exactly what I do. Once we've picked out the fonts that we think are going to be the best for us, I have these 4 here. I don't actually end up using the bottom 2, I just use the top 2. Once we have got those, we go to our data sets up at the top, create a new project, or select the project that we want, which is our pirate game, what type of data set we want, which is going to be our crew cards, because I think they're going to be the easiest to make. Oh boy, was I wrong. The upgrade cards would have been much easier to start with, but alas, here we are. So the first thing you want to do is add a row. That each row is basically an individual card. Then add columns as per the amount of information you're going to want to collect on your card. For example, as I said earlier, the name, the cost, the image, the text, the damage, all of that, place a column for, and then name it as such, and we can move on to the next bit. I came back and added a few more. For example, I added keywords and things like that separately so that it can be inputted onto the card easier. Again, if you're doing this on a different program, if you're doing this on Word or OpenOffice Draw or whatever you're using, always make a note of this. I would recommend creating a spreadsheet if you're not using something that keeps a data set like this. If you're using, say, like I said, Word or something, create an Excel document, have all of these columns in there manually, and fill them out manually so that you can keep track of all of the information that you want. It also makes going back and changing things much easier. Updating your card, not so much, but changing them in your own data sheet will be easier, and therefore you can keep track of things. So, this is where I started to go down the rabbit hole. Now, if you look at some of the other trading card games on YouTube, the probably most predominant thing you will see is the artwork, and some of these guys and gals have amazing, absolutely amazing looking artwork and cards. I disagree with starting with that. I'm sorry, no hate to all of those other amazing talented artists. Art isn't my bag. So I think that if you're spending 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes on an artwork for an individual card, when you could have been spending that time writing out all the text for, let's say, 10 cards, then I think your workflow is very inefficient. But, before you hit that dislike button, like I said, it's not an insult or a diss to anybody who does do that. I guess I just don't have the skills or the patience to do it. However, I do think that ignoring art, especially for a prototype, is extremely important to keep you motivated, to keep you moving forward, to keep the game creation moving. Because if I stop and make a card and make every individual card, I will probably get bored before I create the first full set. Again, not a dig. So, after I've told you that, after I've told you to avoid art, I will now let you know that this card design, and it's not a very good one, this card design took me almost an hour. And that is why I think, using something like this, Component Studio, using something that basically once you've done it once, you never have to touch it again, I think that is vitally important for the efficiency of your workflow. However, if you are doing it on a different thing like Paint.net or Draw or whatever it is, it's still possible. And even if you don't have access to a computer, you only have pen and paper and cardstock and rulers, still do it. Give it a go. Now, this card took me a long time because I needed to get everything where I wanted it, and I was still getting used to this software as a whole. On the card itself, as you can see, the red outline, I believe, but I'm not confirmed, is the cutoff area. The blue zone being the middle of the print, where text can be slightly skewed left or right. So you want it to stay, you want all of your important information to stay within that blue line, because if it's a mil to the left or a mil to the right, it won't be off of your card. Whereas if you went right up to that bleed edge, when it gets cut, if that image had shifted to the left or to the right slightly, you will lose information. And obviously in a card game where information is key, you don't really want to lose it. So I go about adding in all of the information that we said that we wanted in our planning. So that includes areas for the cost, for the renown cost, and those both go at the top in the circles at the top. That includes making the circle itself and any colors or anything you want with it, and then adding the text item in that will automatically change as per your data sheet. If you're inputting all of this manually, then just copy it from your spreadsheet to the card itself. I then go and add a space for the image, but no actual image yet, because as I said before, we're going to be avoiding using images, at least for now. And then adding things like the attack and the damage. They're the same thing. Adding the damage and the health and the renown score of this card, and the keywords and the text and all of it gets added. And it takes a long time to figure out where you want things. It takes a long time to figure out how you want things. But it's all worth it. Or at the very least, I think so. So, I think I've covered everything that I want to in this first video. We've talked about creating the rules and an overview just for yourself, let alone for anybody else. Creating a data sheet, which I think is vitally important, either using Excel or a program like Component Studio, whichever floats your boat. And then we talked about not doing art straight away, unless that's what brings you the most happiness and the most satisfaction, in which case go for it. Don't let anybody on the internet tell you that that's the wrong way to do it. But if, like me, art isn't your strong point and it's something you're a little bit worried about or apprehensive about when it comes to creating cards, then my advice is simply ignore it. Ignore it and hope it goes away. No, but if you go to any board game submission to get it properly published and printed, most of them tell you not to include art, or at least not art that you consider to be the final piece. And that's because they have artists. They have artists that they will work with. They have artists that will change the design to suit the company's ethics and viewpoints and all that. It's a messy business, but as I said, it's not something we need to focus on straight away. After that, we have talked about creating your card. If you can do it on paper, do it on paper first, and then you will have a rough layout to do it in Photoshop or Component Studio or Paint.net or whatever it is. I will leave a link below to some of the free assets that I use, things like Paint.net and things like that. In the next episode, I will probably be doing some more cards of both the crew type and the upgrade type, refining the rules a little bit so we know what we're doing, and then I'm going to show you how we put it into GameCrafter and how to use GameCrafter. I might also, if you guys want, if you leave some comments, let me know. I might show you how to make these cards and things like that in Paint.net and OpenOffice and other free software. I'm about to sneeze, so I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so here's a little bonus for you. I was able to find out a way that on Component Studio, if I want a card to be rare, I can actually change the border around the card, which I think is really cool and really neat, and I think you should add it to your cards if you have rare cards. There you go. Okay, the video's over. Go away.